But here's the dirty little secret. Congress has never passed a federal statute that confers birthright citizenship, period, let alone on illegal aliens. So it's not in the Constitution, it's not in federal law, it's not in the legislative history, and yet it is being used. You know, folks, there's a lot of talk these days about birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship. I realized I've been talking about this a long time before it was even cool. Been writing about it a long time before it was even cool. The other day I noticed there were at least 6 columns on birthright citizenship regurgitating things that I've been saying now for 10 years. I don't have a problem with that. A little footnote here and there would help. You know, my books have what, 200, 300, 400 footnotes? I always try to give credit where credit's due, but apparently that's not the world I live in today. So we went back and looked. I'm sure it even goes back further. But we found August 20, 2015, where I spent a few minutes with Sean Hannity on his show talking about birthright citizenship. And since then, in 2018, I discussed it at great length, wrote about it. I discussed it on Fox, I think a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. And I've done it many more times before then, and I'm sure I'll do it many more times since then. Birthright citizenship. There's no such thing. It's not in the Constitution. We discussed this the other day. Nowhere in the Constitution. It's not in any of the legislative history for the 14th Amendment. None of it. It's not in the 1866 Civil Rights Act, the first one in American history, post-Civil War, to ensure that freed black slaves were given full citizenship in the South because many of the southern states refused. And so that's there in the 14th Amendment. Not once did they discuss immigration, let alone illegal immigration. And for decades after that period, the interpretation of the 14th Amendment was, as I said. That is, it was an amendment that was intended to ensure that black people were emancipated in every respect and citizens of the United States. It had nothing to do with immigration, legal or illegal. And now, of course, birthright citizenship is the argument, is the position, is the policy the Democrat Party holds on to because they want monopoly power for all time. And they don't care if it's foreigners or not. Now, I haven't listened to this, I must say. I don't even remember exactly what I said. I've posted it, and the team here has pulled it together, so let's take a listen, you and I. It's just about 2.5 minutes. August 20, 2015. What is that, 9.5 years ago? Go.
Donald Trump continues to push his plan to combat illegal immigration. Here's what he said last night when asked if the 14th Amendment protects babies born to illegal parents living in the United States.
I think you're wrong about the 14th Amendment, and frankly, the whole thing with anchor babies and the concept of anchor babies, they're saying it's not going to hold up in court. Now, it's going to have to be tested, but they say it's not going to hold up in court. Regardless, when people are illegally in the country, they have to go. I'd much rather find out whether or not anchor babies are actually citizens, because a lot of people don't think they are.
The Supreme Court has never ruled that the children of illegal aliens are American citizens. So the Supreme Court has never ruled it. Even if they did, it would be wrong. The clause speaks for itself. The author of the clause made it abundantly, unequivocally clear. And let me add one other thing. Let's read the clause together, shall we? All persons born or naturalized in the United States. Let's stop there. If it means what the proponents of birthright citizenship say, it would stop right there. All persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. There's no need for anything else. But that's not what it says. Then it says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, you have some slip-and-fall lawyers, some phony constitutional lawyers. They have Esquire after their name. They come on TV. They go all over the place. Jurisdiction means geography. Jurisdiction has nothing to do with geography. Zero. It had to do with political allegiance to the United States of America. How do we know it? Because they said it. And they also excluded everybody that the left and some of the Republicans want to include. Now, here's the good news. There's another part of the Constitution. It's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. Here's what that says in plain English. The Congress shall have power to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. Now, you know what that means? That means Congress, not the courts, not the president, not ICE. It means the United States Congress has the power to regulate immigration in this regard. And guess what, Sean? In the 1920s, that's exactly what it did. The 14th Amendment excludes Indians, that is, Native Americans, as U.S. citizens because they felt that they had an allegiance to their own national tribes. Okay, great. And I believe it was in 1923, Congress reversed course and said, you know what, under the 14th Amendment and under this Article 1, we've decided to grant citizenship, national citizenship,
this is
to
important,
all Native Americans.
because you're talking about
it could not be clearer.
Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? And the argument has not changed right up to now. But what's important there, and I want to underscore, is not just that clause that talks about the jurisdiction thereof, which, of course, the left ignores. But it's the other clause. Congress makes the decision, not the courts. Now, that's never stopped the courts, the Supreme Court, from intervening anyway. But here's the dirty little secret. Congress has never passed a federal statute that confers birthright citizenship, period, let alone on illegal aliens. So it's not in the Constitution. It's not in federal law. It's not in the legislative history. And yet it is being used. And my fear is some of these knuckleheads on these courts will rule, maybe that's all well and good, but that's how it's come to be meant to be, and therefore that's how it's been practiced, so we don't want to, reverse course on that sort of thing. Of course, they should reverse course on that sort of thing, and they could do it in a way that's painless. In other words, sort of grandfather in the people who've been born in the United States and have had citizenship conferred on them somehow, some way, by someone. Some people think, my friend Hans von Spakovsky thinks it was from the New Deal. I couldn't find it from the New Deal. Some people think, believe it or not, it was the Social Security Administration. It just didn't want to deal with complicated matters like who gets and who doesn't get, so they just threw everybody into the citizenship bucket. Other people think it was much more notorious than that. I don't really care. The fact of the matter is, there is no affirmative step that was taken by Congress, and there's nothing affirmative in the Constitution, quite the contrary, that creates such a right, birthright citizenship. I mean, it even, just listen to the language.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.